Hello and welcome back to Wrongmar. In today's maths lesson we're taking another look at positive and negative numbers. Our WALT for today is to solve word problems including negative numbers. But first, let's do a quick warm-up. You know this game already. I'm going to give you a number. This time I want you to start counting backwards in 100s. When I say change, you change direction and start counting up in hundreds. Every time I say change, you change the direction. See how close you can get to zero. Your starting number is 6,500. Ready? Go! Change. Change. And stop. How close did you get to zero? Let's try one more round. Your number this time is slightly more difficult. It's 2,030. Counting down in 100s. Ready? Go! Change. Change. And stop. Great, you're all warmed up and ready to go. So two places where we can see negative numbers in real life every day is in money and in temperature. Today we're going to take a closer look at temperature and see where we use negative numbers in that topic. Take a look at this. What is this that we're looking at? What information is it trying to show us? Pause the video and write down those two answers. Well, this is a line graph, and it's a line graph showing what the temperatures are in Moscow, on average, in the different months of the year. Now you might have noticed that there's two different coloured lines. The red one is what the average high temperature in each month is, and the blue one is the average low temperature in each month. Just to make sure you haven't forgotten how to read a line graph, can you find the three coldest months in Moscow? So go to the average low temperature and find the three coldest months. Pause the video and write down those three answers. So you should have January, February and December. Great, we're ready to move on. Let's focus in on one particular month. We're going to just take a look at March. I want you to look at the high temperature in March and the low temperature in March and find out what the difference between the two is. Now, if you want to try this by yourself, pause the video now and give it a go. Otherwise, you can just keep watching and we'll do it together. So first we need to find the two numbers we're talking about. The average high temperature in March is 2 degrees and the average low temperature is -5 degrees. So there's the two numbers we're working with, 2 and -5. Now there's two different ways we can solve this one. The first way is using a number line, like we did in the previous lessons. We start on 2 and we count back until we hit -5. And if we do that, we're going to get 7. So the difference between 2 and -5 is 7. Now number lines are great, don't get me wrong, but you're not always going to have one available, especially if you have a bigger number. So it's good to have a second strategy for solving these types of problems. So let's just write down our numbers. We have 2 minus -5 is equal to something. Now let's just put the answer that we already know up in the corner. We know it should be equal to 7. Now this sum looks really strange because there's two minus signs. But watch what happens when we have two minus signs beside each other. Did you see that? It turned into a plus sign. Let's just make sure that that actually works though. 2 plus 5 is equal to 7. And we know the answer is 7 from the number line. So there you have it. When you have two minus signs right beside each other, like this, you can turn it into a plus sign. You'll learn more in secondary school about why you can do this. Let's jump back to the line graph and try a few more questions. Can you find the difference in high temperature and low temperature for the month of November? I'll give you a hand for the first one and show you which numbers we're looking at. So here's our high temperature and here's our low. What's the difference between those two? Pause the video and give it a try. Now remember, there's always two ways of solving these types of problems. We could use a number line, which is perfectly okay. And if we did that, we start on 1 and go back to -3, and we'd have 4 jumps. So our answer is 4. Or we could try the written sum. We'd have 1 minus -3 is equal to something. And we know our little rule that we just learned about is that 1 plus 3 is equal to 4. So same answer, two different ways. 4 is the correct answer. Let's try another question. What is the difference between high temperature in October and high temperature in February? Pause the video and give it a try. Well, these were the two numbers that we were using for that sum. 8 is the high temperature in October, and -4 is the high temperature in February. So, two ways of solving it. First, use the number line. We start on 8, we jump back until we hit -4, and we're going to have 12 jumps. Or we could do the written sum and say 8 minus -4 is equal to something. Well, using our rule that we learned about earlier on, that changes to 8 plus 4 is equal to, you guessed it, 12. Let's go for one last question. I want you to tell me what is the difference between the low temperature in September and the low temperature in March. Pause the video and give it a try. So here are the two numbers that we were using. The low temperature in September is 8, and the low temperature in March is -5. So, first way, using the number line. We start on 8, we jump back until we hit -5, and we'll get 13 jumps. So the answer is 13. Or we could use the written method, and we would have 8 minus -5 is equal to something. Using our rule again, that'll change to 8 plus 5 is equal to 13. So the answer is 13. So as you can see, Moscow is a pretty wild place for weather. It can be really nice and warm in the summertime and extremely cold in the wintertime. But there's even more extreme places around the world. The hottest temperature ever recorded was recorded in the Libyan desert. Write down what temperature you think it was. Pause the video and write it down. Well, the warmest temperature ever recorded was 58 degrees Celsius. What about the lowest temperature? It was recorded in the Volstagg station in Antarctica. What temperature do you think was the lowest ever recorded temperature? Pause the video and write down an answer. Well, the lowest temperature ever recorded was a mind-numbing -88 degrees Celsius. Unbelievable. So our WALT for today was to solve some word problems using negative numbers. Can you do that now? If you can, great, you're ready to try the practice activities below. If not, you might want to go back over the video, pause it in different parts where you got lost. That's all we have time for this week. Until next time, take care.